Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get ready to suck it! Woo!
Buckle up. It's time for a drive-by.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold Jackson.
Nearfall Nation, say hello to the bald guy, and welcome to episode 27 of Drive-By with Shooter. I'm going to roll right in the topic. We had a big weekend with Hell in a Cell. We had some eventful matches, some really good matches, some really good storytelling, 2 possible Match of the Year candidates in both Cell matches, and we had a little bit of a dud when it came to the Jinder Mahal Shinsuke Nakamura match. Now, what I mean by that is basically the dud is the fact that Shinsuke didn't win, and that was a dud for a lot of WWE fans. Now, as I kind of stated in the Hell in a Cell post show or review that I did, we as fans need to realize this. Jinder is SmackDown's version of Brock Lesnar, and not in the fact that he's an unbeatable monster heel that is going to be used to get Roman Reigns over. No. In the fact that he isn't going to lose that belt before at least the Indian tour is over. They're going to India. He's Indian. They're going to use that to their advantage as a marketing tool. So if Lesnar's keeping the Universal strap until WrestleMania for Roman to win, then Jinder is keeping that WWE Championship at least through December when this tour of India is all said and done. We got to get used to it, guys. We got to realize that's what it is. We don't have to like it, but that's what it is. So don't act shocked. Don't act surprised. You know, I picked Shin just because it's what I want. I'm done with the experiment. The experiment's failed. I'm over it. I'm ready to move on. But it's not going to happen. We have to be realistic. But what I want to talk about is how this is actually affecting me as a fan, and not so much the booking or the choices that WWE makes, but the reaction from the IWC, from wrestling podcasters, quote unquote wrestling journalists. It's gotten to the point where it makes me want to shut Twitter off. It makes me want to stay off of comments on Facebook threads, even on my own page. It's so annoying how much fans of professional wrestling hate professional wrestling. I want you to think about that, guys. Fans of WWE, the biggest, most successful company in the genre of pro wrestling / sports entertainment, is loved worldwide and despised worldwide. I'm not even sure what that means or how it's even possible, but I'm so sick and tired of the crybaby wrestling fan. I'm so sick and tired of people who, like me, who do something like this and are just never happy. Granted, it's impossible to put on a perfect wrestling show. I'm guessing, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it would be very hard to put on a wrestling show that pleased just about every single person. But there's some people that seem to be so unpleasable. If they could have, Hell in a Cell was amazing, okay? Hell in a Cell was amazing. But just because Jinder didn't win, because Jinder won and Shinsuke did not, we have people saying it's the worst show they've ever seen. You know, and I sat here and I mulled over and I thought about talking about this. This is something that's been on my mind for a while, and it's just gotten to the point where it's like, this is ridiculous. And I thought, you know, there's so many people who I want to I don't want to say I want to mold this show after, but I strive to get where they've gotten with the followers and with the fans and with the people who respond to them. And whether I agree with them or not, they have a following, and that's what I want to get to. I want to be a go-to source to listen to an opinion or a view on the subject of professional wrestling. But I listen to some of these people on Twitter and I see what they say and I think, why does everyone or anyone even care what you think? Because nothing is good enough for you. And it doesn't even matter. I'll say the main person I'm talking about, someone like JD from New York. I mean, this guy literally hates everything that WWE puts on television. When you are tweeting out about Jinder winning, which you knew was going to happen, and that Shinsuke is completely buried, and you need to hashtag cancel the network, you think that guy's going to cancel the network? Because, I mean, he's got sponsorships and he makes a living off of YouTube videos talking about professional wrestling. Do you think he's going to cancel the network? Do you think he really wants you to cancel the network, which is going to, let's say every single person that was mad about that canceled the network, and then that snowballed and a bunch of people canceled the network, and then WWE lost a bunch of money and then the network couldn't even exist anymore. And then, 2-3 years down the road, maybe they shut their doors. He makes money off of professional wrestling. I don't make any money off of professional wrestling, and I don't want that to happen. Because one, I wouldn't have this to talk about and do for you guys. And two, there's one form of entertainment that I love that would be gone. So, stop with these ridiculous hashtags, cancel WWE Network. Come on. Nobody's going to do that. And if they did, and it's for any reason other than because they needed to pay bills or put food on the table, and they're a wrestling fan, they're not really a wrestling fan. If you're going to cancel a subscription to a network that is an extreme value at $10 a month with all the content that they offer you, from back catalog to current new pay-per-views, sometimes twice a month, and you don't think that's worth $10 a month because your guy didn't win one match on one show, you're an idiot. And we talk a lot to our fans on the Nearfall Network Facebook page. Mr. Vest, one of our Nearfall superstars, Nearfall MVPs, we had a conversation and he brought up about maybe people left. There were pictures of empty seats in the arena, I should say, during Hell in a Cell. And, he brought up, maybe people were so mad they left after the Jinder match. And I said, that's insane to me. There's no way I would pay the money that I know it costs to go to a WWE pay-per-view, knowing that there's still 2 matches left. One of them being Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon in a damn Hell in a Cell, that I'm going to be so mad that Jinder won and Shinsuke didn't that I'm just going to leave. That's insane. And he said, and Smarks at its best, we actually got in a discussion where Smarks is kind of something he uses and I use as a jab, but we don't really like the word. Like, a mark's a better word, and mark is looked at as derogatory, but I'm here to tell you guys, we're all marks for something. That just means you care about something. You like something, you believe in it, you're excited about it. If you're not a mark for something, then what do you have passion about? I'm a mark for wrestling. I'm a mark for heavy metal. I'm a mark for The Walking Dead. I am a mark for Star Wars. I'm a nerd. I'm a mark for X-Men, for Avengers, for Marvel in general. I'm a mark for horror movies. These are things that I find enjoyment in. If I didn't find enjoyment in anything and in life, then what's the point? It doesn't make sense. So, we circle back to what I started this conversation with. You have guys and girls, but mostly guys, talking about wrestling, trying to make a YouTube living off of talking about wrestling, and they hate wrestling. At least that's what you would be led to believe. I don't know if it's legit. I don't know if they do it because a catchy little tweet and then angry tweet about how much they hated something, and then here's my video about it, get some more views. I don't know. I don't do that. Maybe that's why I don't have big views. I couldn't tell you guys. But the bottom line is, I'm sick of Crybaby Wrestling fans. Here's the deal. You want to tweet out hashtag cancel the network? Then just cancel the network. You don't have to tell people about it. You don't have to talk on and on about how bad wrestling is. And, you don't have to talk about how you hate everything they put on TV. Just quit watching it, quit reviewing it, and find something else to love and then probably eventually complain about. Guys, the Shield's back together, so there's that. And a lot of other stuff that I want to get into. We had a couple really big things happen these last few days, near Fall Nation. I'll start with Raw and go right into the Shield is freaking back together, guys, and how awesome is that? Now, I know some people weren't super pumped out there in internet wrestling land. Some people don't feel this is the right time or the right way. Some people feel it should have been a bigger reason for the Shield to get together other than The Miz and The Bar. I say, screw it. The Shield is back together and let's enjoy it while we have it, because God only knows how long it's going to last. Now, how do I see this? I see this totally as if you want to relate it to the gender talk earlier, it's a ploy to get Roman Reigns over. To get people to cheer with Roman, because, hey, listen to the crowds. It's working. People like Roman when he's in the Shield. Apparently they don't like him when he's an individual, and I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense to me, but what do I know? What I do know is that the Shield is one of the most over factions that WWE has ever had, and it definitely isn't going to hurt Roman to be a part of that again, especially when they're trying to position him as the face of the company. Now, that being said, that's where my concern comes in. If they want Roman to be the face of the company, how long do they keep him in this faction? Only time will tell, but my hope is that this isn't a one-off. I saw a report that said this could be just simply because Cena and Brock are not going to be seen till possibly November or longer, so they need something to bring ratings up. I mean, that also makes sense. I still think it has a lot to do with Roman, and I hope that this is something that can carry on. And I can't take credit for it. I've heard, other podcasters, example, New Age Insiders, mention this, but I really hope that the Shield thing could be a permanent thing, or at least a semi-permanent thing. They don't have to be a three-man team constantly. Even the New Day, they always come out together. They don't have to always come out together. They can have their own music. They can have their own themes, but they can have three-man matches. They can have two-man matches and have each other's back. They can come out separately and alone and get the job done, but then when shit goes down, their guys are in the back ready to help out if they need be. I think the Shield could be a continuous story and a continuous group that works within the WWE, and each guy can have individual success and the three of them can have team success. And I think it would be fun for the fans. I think it would be something different. I think it would be something that really WWE has never done with a faction. Usually the factions are a faction, they're a team, they're always there, they're always together, at least one or two of them, and we don't have to do that all the time with these three. They've all proven that they can be stars on their own. Maybe this little, rub from each other and being together can help them be better stars on their own, even while they're still friends and still a group and still a faction, which I love factions. And I swear to you, one of these days, we're going to do a show all about factions. It's coming. High fiver. Listen up. It's coming. We're doing it. But I'm excited. I don't think there would be any reason to not be excited about the Shield reunion other than we don't know how long it's going to last. And I just have my fingers crossed that this is a good thing. It's going to stay there and be there for a good long time. I'd say, hey, they printed t-shirts, so obviously they have long-term ideas for this. But they printed Y2AJ shirts and that lasted like a week, so I don't really think that has anything to do with it. Another really interesting, fun development that took place this week, starting on Hell in a Cell and then moving over to SmackDown Live, is the Sami Zayn, I guess we're calling it a heel turn. You know, Sami Zayn came out at Hell in a Cell, pulled KO off the table when Shane was dropping the elbow off the top of the cell. And then he also pulled Kevin onto Shane. And basically went on SmackDown to promo and give an awesome promo and tell a story about, you know, basically that him and KO have had their ups and downs, but no matter what, whether they're friends, enemies, rivals, they're brothers. And he kind of went on to say Shane didn't care about that and wanted to hurt KO, and he wasn't going to stand for that and this, that, and the other. The bottom line, and I'm not trying to cheapen what was said because it's a really solid program, a really, really, really good base to this story that could continue to build. And I don't know where we go from it, but I love the idea, and I hope, I mean, let's be honest, Kevin Owens has the I don't want to say the reputation, but yeah, I guess the reputation that he turns on his friends. That's what he did to Sami Zayn in NXT. That's what he did to Chris Jericho. But if you look at the Jericho KO storyline, as awesome as it was, and I mean awesome because that was some of the best stuff they had done on WWE television in a long time, and it went about 6-8 months of story building to build up to WrestleMania. This has the same kind of potential, but I almost hope, let me see, I'm not sure how far out we are from Mania, but this could also be a build to WrestleMania where we have these guys having each other's back. Maybe next time, maybe Zayne turns on Owens. I don't know. But if we know anything about professional wrestling, we know that friendships just don't last, especially like this. So I find it interesting that they're taking this. I find it really interesting that it's someone as beloved as Sami Zayn. They've taken a chance to let him go to the dark side, to let him be that bad guy, and I'm excited to see where this goes. I think there's so much potential. And it's just one of those crazy things that, you know, we all of us that are a fan of Sami Zayn and like what he does have kind of thought he really hasn't gotten the attention that he should, or hasn't gotten the push that he should, or this, that, and the other. And it's just the normal cries that you hear from the, you know, fans of WWE and the people that talk on the internet and that do podcasts and this, that, and the other, that Sami doesn't get a fair shake. And they're kind of turning it into a storyline here, and they're kind of showing that, you know, he said on TV that I don't know if he said on TV, he said it on Twitter, maybe, that, you know, he thought he'd have a better shot at things when he came to SmackDown Live, and it really hasn't done anything for his career. It hasn't made anything better. And I really like how they're kind of pulling the real life stuff, whether it's legit real life stuff or not, into this storyline. And this could build such a massive build to a massive crescendo that I'm so excited for what they have going on right now. I feel like they're starting to really put together what WrestleMania season is going to look like. And I know it's still really early for that, but April's not that far away, guys. And I'm not saying that this is going to be a WrestleMania story where we already get the turn and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn split by April, but there's potential there, and that's still a really long time for a story to build, especially these days in pro wrestling. It gives me, if anything, it gives me hope, and it makes me think, you know, I thought WrestleMania this past year was fantastic. Yeah, there were some things I didn't like. The Bray Wyatt-Orton match wasn't good. You know, there were a couple of things that were duds, more so than, you know, there were more duds on WrestleMania than there have been, let's say, in the last couple of pay-per-views they've put on. That's for sure. But overall, it was a really quality show, especially for a massive 4-hour, really 6 or 7 hour show if you count all the pre-show and all that crazy nonsense. But all that being said, I feel like WWE right now is really getting into a fun stride
where if they're not building some of the stuff to WrestleMania, then they're doing a really good job of building the little stuff that's leading to Survivor Series and Royal Rumble. And as we all know, Royal Rumble really kicks off the road to WrestleMania, and that's where things really start to take shape. And we've all got the Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns things in our head. A lot of us have our fingers crossed for Nakamura and AJ on the other side. And I think things are starting to go into place where I think a lot of the stuff that we're hoping for is going to happen. I think we're going to have to just forgive the Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns thing. If you're against it, then just forgive it, because it's going to happen. But I think they're putting other things in place to make the show overall a show that fans are going to be like, all right, that was fun. It's about time. Thank you, WWE. Well, both of my next subjects still have a little bit of rumor and speculation swirling around them. I feel the need that I really have to touch on them and just give a little bit of my opinion on both. First being the fact that writer, producer, creative outlet, however you want to look at him, Jimmy Jacobs was apparently fired from WWE, and it was apparently because of a picture he took with the Bullet Club, who he is friends with, outside of Raw during the Bullet Club invasion of Monday Night Raw. People, I'm going to touch on this really briefly, but a lot of people have kind of lashed out at WWE for this and calling them petty, calling it a petty move, saying how it's crap that he was fired for taking a picture with his friends. And while all that stuff is legit and true, and I agree with all that, it's crap that he's fired for taking a picture with his friends. Here's the flip side of it, guys. WWE has to protect its interests and its image. And if its employees, I don't even think it was so much the picture. It's probably the fact that he sent the picture out on social media himself. If the Young Bucks or the Bullet Club had taken that picture and put it out on their own, it might not have been a big deal. But the fact that he personally sent it out on his Instagram with hashtag Raw and Bullet Club Invasion, like, come on. You're just asking for trouble. As King of Nerds said in one of the posts on our page, he should have known better. And I actually kind of got into a talk with Dave Meltzer on our Twitter about it, and he was trying to say name one company who would fire people over something like this. I got news for you guys. Coke and Pepsi, they don't get along very well. And I know for a fact that one of those companies will consider an employee consuming or owning product from the other company a fireable offense, and it's been handed out. So, I mean, are we petty? Are we protecting our brand? That's for you guys to figure out and the fans to decide this, that, and the other. But the bottom line is, you got to know some rules and regulations when it comes to this kind of things. And yes, I know, we're going to say Sami Zayn, AJ Styles, Kevin Owens all made background appearances in a recent episode of Being the Elite. It's why I kind of say, I'm sure I find a hard time believing that somebody wasn't in the know that they were going to do that in the company. And I also see where there's a difference where they were in it. They didn't, do much other than be there. And at the same time, they're not sharing links to Being the Elite. They're not putting it out on social media. It's being put out by the people who took the picture or took the video. When he took the picture himself, he being Jimmy Jacobs, and he sent it out. He made his bed. He's laying in it. We don't have to like it. We don't have to agree with it. Sometimes you just got to think. And sometimes you might not realize how loved you are and how good you're doing, at least to the fans' perspective. News, I think it was either late Tuesday night or late Wednesday night. My times get mixed up, but news started to break that Neville, the king of the cruiserweights, had walked out on Monday Night Raw and asked for his release. Now, rumors were swirling, and although no one has officially stated anything, as much as I know right now is that he didn't walk out on Raw because he didn't even show up to Raw, didn't show up for 205 Live, wasn't at the house show live events on the weekend. Now, also WWE is stating that he's still with the company. Dirt sheets are saying that WWE does not want to release him, which I totally get. There's a lot of ways to look at this. You know, I kind of got into some conversations again on Twitter with wrestling fans, and I was basically saying, like, what more could this guy ask for? But what I didn't really take into account is the paycheck. And more than that, but the pay-per-view payoffs. If you're not on a pay-per-view, you don't get paid for being on a pay-per-view. And pretty much with the cruiserweights, if you're not the champion or the number one contender, you're not on a pay-per-view. You know, we get one cruiserweight match usually on a pay-per-view, and that's a tough spot to be in, and I do get that. And if this is simply, I'm getting ripped off on this stuff because of money, and now the title's on Enzo, and I'm not even able to touch the title because of storyline reasons, I don't know if that's good enough for me, especially because Neville was one of the best heels in the company at this point. Neville was awesome as the king of the cruiserweights. He came into that cruiserweight division after an injury and lit it on fire. Now, is it where it should be? No. Is that part of the booking of the 205 live show and the cruiserweight division as a whole? A great deal of it is, yes. But they were trying to do things different. I think that was part of the reason they put Enzo in there. I think that's part of the reason they've been giving, even if it's been Enzo and Neville or Enzo and the other cruiserweights, the spotlight and the main event time on Monday Night Raw. It feels like they were trying to change things up and make an effort. And just when things could improve, he walks out. My personal hope was that Neville would not be allowed to go after that title if Enzo was a champ, so he'd go after another title, maybe go after the IC title, because he could definitely compete on the main roster. I don't think some of these cruiserweights could handle that or would be believable in that role, but he definitely could. So for me, it's really hard to get behind the fact that he was not happy with where he was. He was in a good spot, he was a champion, and he was making the best of what he had. Now, is that good enough? I don't know. The other thing is I see all the people saying, good for him, he's going to be great, and he very well could be great outside. You know, I heard that he was asking for his release for a while because he wanted to kind of do what Drew McIntyre did, what Cody Rhodes is doing, you know, leaving and raising your stock and coming back. I don't feel that his stock was that low unless he was just so over being pigeonholed as a cruiserweight. I guess if he was in that kind of window in his mind and he didn't feel that he could break out of that in the current state, so he had to go do something else. I don't know. None of it really adds up to me. And for me, I feel like it's a big CM Punk take your ball and go home, and it pisses me off. And because I'm a fan of his, and I was really, really hoping for some change, for some things to improve for him. Not that they were bad. He was booked as champion for almost a year, and he was practically unbeatable until Enzo showed up. Now, is that what the catalyst is? That he doesn't think he's even close to being on the Neville level? And he's not. And Neville would be right. Enzo's not on the Neville level. But that being said, you can't be on top all the time. And if we're building a storyline and trying to change things in this division that really hasn't gone where it needed to go, buckle up and stay with it and see what happens. Because you were the leader of that division. And even though you can blame a lot of stuff on booking, you were still the face of that division. So if it wasn't where it needed to be, you have to put a little bit of blame on yourself as well. Now, I won't put hardly any of it on Neville. I'm just saying you have to make it look like something to watch, even if it's being booked bad. You have to do it. The superstars have to do it, and they haven't. None of them have stepped up. You know, a lot of these wrestling podcasts that people in the business always say, ask for forgiveness, not permission. So maybe go out there, and if they're told do this, that, and the other, and they don't think that's what's going to work to get them over, then do something else and get yourselves over. You're either going to get over and they're going to like it and you're going to be asked to do it again, or they're going to get mad, they're going to tell you never to do it again, and maybe you're booked worse, but you can't be booked much worse than 205 has already been booked. So what's the risk? It's a confusing time when it comes to this, and I want to see Neville succeed. So if he goes somewhere, I hope he succeeds and comes back. If he doesn't go somewhere, then I hope this is a power play on his part and it makes a difference and it works out that way for him. Guys, I say it every week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for stopping in and spending a little bit of time with me and letting me ramble the shit off of my head. It's been real. It's been fun. We'll catch you next time.